You know, there's never a bad day to celebrate Tucker D. Franklin, but the D stands for definitely not here today because it's his birthday. So feel free to light up the YouTube live chat if you wish, but Tucker's not going to see it. We're in Nick's capable hands for today's show. We're going to fly by. It's going to be all good. But today, truly, we gotta celebrate the absolute best of us, and that's July 1st's very own Tucker D. Franklin. Seth, how would you? And man, I mean, I might as well ask you to summarize the Sistine Chapel. But
Sure.
how do you characterize the impact of Tucker D. Franklin, not only on this show and KC Sports Network in general, but on your life in particular?
You know, it's hard to really sum up into words what working with Tucker D. Franklin has meant to me professionally, but more importantly, personally. As they often love to say in the pros, great podcast producer, great content producer, incredible ad reader, even better human. Now, usually when people say that about like professional athletes or professional coaches, they're wrong. Right. Because statistically speaking, like if someone's like, Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback and an even better human, it's like, well, he's the best quarterback in the world. So you're telling me no one on earth is a better human. I mean, all due respect to Patrick Mahomes, who seems like a great guy.
He could be the fifth best human in the world, and he would not be as good of a human as he is quarterback.
Right. Whereas in Tucker's case, it's all true. To quote one of our wonderful longtime voyeurs, transcendent seems like an understatement, whose name I said once, I shall never say again. Actually, they'll probably get me at some point.
For sure.
You know what the great thing is about Tucker? Literally everything. I get such a kick out of him because I am so much older than he is.
Yeah.
And not once has he given me that I'm only pretending to kind of listen to you because I think you're so old that you won't notice that I'm not really paying attention vibe that so many early 20-somethings give to people once they hit their 40s or 30-somethings. I know some that do that in their 30s too. But he is not prone to, dazing away when I'm talking. He always shows that he really thinks that I've still got what it takes to hold up in this young man's industry. And he's never made me feel old, even as I've repeatedly demonstrated just how old I really am. You know what? Jokes and bits aside, Tucker's a great dude and is so much fun to work with. And what is he turning, like 24?
Oh, God, are you done? Oh, thank goodness.
Yes.
Welcome to Only Weird Games. It's me and Seth right now. Nate's going to join in progress. I don't know what the tennis schedule has to do with his availability, but I do always assume there's some sort of connection there. But Nate will be joining as we go. Tucker won't be, hopefully out doing something delightful. And I was going to say chugging a seltzer. That's honestly like 3 brands ago for Tucker. I hope Tucker's out there getting a brand deal from somebody right now, which is what he deserves. In the meantime, Seth, I guess we can sort of chat. I did listen to your and Nate's second episode of The Summer Without Me. I did take some notes. I don't know if you want those now or if you don't want to wait until Nate gets here. It would be kind of wild to do like an intermission on my notes from Thursday's show. Let me run a couple revelations by you here, just so you can try to help me understand some things that I missed. A few revelations from Thursday's show. One, you admitted very early and with absolutely no enticing whatsoever. You did admit you have inappropriate dreams about Nate. I didn't get frequency from that, and I didn't know if it was exclusively Nate or if you're having like weird podcast dreams. That was concerning.
jealousy doesn't become you, Josh. And I just Nate's a handsome man. What do you want from me? I don't understand.
No, I mean, I would never argue that Nate's not a handsome man. I just, I don't know. I mean, some of this stuff, Batman couldn't have gotten me to admit that, and you did it on a podcast for free. Then we're not. This whole podcast isn't free. We're not. BJ's not making us do this at gunpoint. I'm saying Seth didn't get any incentive to share that, as far as I'm aware. Or maybe you're getting paid based off of insane things you say per podcast, which would actually make a lot of sense.
I don't know why I've never thought to
ask for that.
Yeah, to make that an offer, just like float to BJ the idea of, how right now, anytime we get super chats, we donate them to charity. What if instead we gave them to me and I just started debasing myself completely for the purposes of making an extra buck or two? The problem with that is I debase myself on accident so frequently that I don't think it would move the needle much. And so, no, I just figured you were away. I was trying to keep the show nice and spicy. And so I just did what I had to do.
Well, you all collectively did that because Tucker immediately knew that the morning routine guy was in Florida, which Nate also seemed to know. And then you seemed very excited by the idea of Nate being the morning routine guy. I figured those might be connected with point one. It was just kind of the energy you started the show with. I wasn't here for it, so I just want to make sure I figured it out.
Look, however sandy beaches and ice baths play into my dreams, that's none of your business, Brisco.
That's true. Speaking of things that are none of my business, all of our wives are too alabaster for the beach, I've learned. Renee also, you gotta really plan for a day in the sun. And it just seems like that's something we all have in common. So that's nice. Not a huge fan of the beaches, or at least of UV rays. Just something I learned there. I also learned that you had a -1 RDOE from Tuesday to Thursday's episode. That's Resurrection Days over expected. You were back in 2 days from the dead. Typically, I feel like they tell you it's going to take 3. You're like the Patrick Mahomes of coming back from the dead.
Yeah, no, it got real squirrely there very quickly. There's a fine line between good jokes and legitimate blasphemy, and I pride myself in towing that line pretty capably. And
doesn't everybody think they do that on the right side of that line, though? I mean, in theory.
Yeah, everyone does until the fireballs come.
Right. And it's like, who those
the prophets of Baal were out there like, no, this is probably fine. Hey, that's getting brighter, huh?
It's getting closer. Yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger. And then Tony Richardson. I didn't really have anything to add. I just I've got a Tony Richardson card over on a cork board over here that I was going through. I put up this cork board to have some places to put. It's not working. I'm surrounded by papers of various medical sorts on my desk still, so it's not working. But I have this cork board. I put up some just Polaroids and movie tickets. And as I was sorting through some football cards, I found a Tony Richardson card, and I felt like that is the one that needed to be there. If I can bring a Tony Richardson demeanor into this show every day, it would be a much better show.
Yeah, I think that would be true of all of us. I mean, there is never Zach Byers says this well. T-Rich made everyone a fan of fullbacks. Yeah. It's such a cool thing. I'll say the same thing I said last week. Turn on some Priest Holmes highlights, and you will watch one of
You mean some Tony Richardson highlights?
You'll watch some Will Shields highlights too.
That's true.
Highlights, some Brian Waters highlights. Man, that team could play. Some Jason Dunn highlights. Shout out to our fellow content creator.
Feels wrong that we have the same job as Jason Dunn now. I don't feel good about. I mean, I feel great about that. He shouldn't.
Well, no, we'll fight him for it. All three of us at once. We'll lose. Yeah, but
at least there'll be one more good piece of content that we could put out.
No, he's really managed to turn around. I remember people always ask the various questions, in the KC Media Hunger Games, and who does what, and it was always Herbie.
Yeah.
I think Jason Dunn may have, barring all of us banding together, I think he may have really settled that once and for all, because when you see what that man did to defensive ends on the regular, man, he was. And the funny thing is, if you go back and watch his college highlights, this is just something that's interesting. He openly talks about this. He had an injury early in his career that kind of robbed him of some of his explosion. He was a phenomenal athlete Well, he always was, but he was even more explosive before getting injured, to where he was more of a pass catching guy. And then when he got robbed of some explosiveness, he just became this bulldozer. And I just admire that. It's kind of like how I, understanding that I'm no good at hosting the podcast after 1 week, I have converted now to merely following your lead.
It's nice that you leave me a couple of scraps here. I think you guys got through just fine in my absence. Zach asks, well, are you allowed to be armed? And here's the problem with that question, Zach. How long are we going to be armed for before Jason Dunn is then armed?
Yeah.
Because it's the same. Like, I mean, am I armed with a bazooka, I guess, with like 100 yards? I don't think it's going to matter.
Yeah, that's, there's just a lot going into that decision. I was always told, and there's people that are trained to deal with these kind of things, and I'm glad they're not me, that, most handheld weapons in the hands of someone who doesn't know how to use it really doesn't do you a whole lot of good. Now, if I have a baseball bat and he doesn't see me coming, I think I've got half a shot.
I don't. I think he'd be asleep
I know, that's the problem, right? Because I just oh no, he didn't go down. Well, that's unfortunate for me.
Game over, I guess.
But I mean,
it myself out.
Yeah, so much fun watching him just bulldoze guys. And I mean, just kind of an aces dude to interact with. He's never talks down to people in terms of being a former player. It is maybe the KCSN network and a SWAT team. Yeah, now we're cooking with gas here. We can really kind of talk about this and figure it out.
Not enough gas.
Not enough gas.
Still.
Not enough gas. But I don't even remember how we got on to. T-Rich, Jason Dunn. I will go to my grave saying the best run blocking unit in history was in Kansas City in 2003 and 2004. I know the Cowboys lines of the 90s get a ton of love. Some of those Broncos before people really knew what to deal with inside and outside zone in the late 90s when John Elway was just dragged to a couple of Super Bowl titles, kicking and screaming.
Yep. Eli Manning of his era.
Yep. Any excuse to do that is just delicious. And so, but I think the offensive lines were great. But when you throw in T-Rich, who has an argument for one of the greatest blocking fullbacks of all time, and Jason Dunn, who's got an argument for one of the greatest blocking tight ends of all time, I think that clears. I'm convinced that, let's say Larry Johnson and Priest Holmes had both been together for longer and healthy at the same time. I'm convinced that team could have run the ball 60 times a game.
Yeah.
And that was back in the day when they let running backs run the ball 30 times a game. Wasn't there a game where Johnson ran the ball 40 times?
I'll look for his career high. I think it might start with a 4. On that note, since we're here, I don't think you guys talked about this a week ago without me. The quarter century team that I don't know if it was ESPN did, or it was sure, by and large a good list made by people who I saw who made it. I was like, oh, these are people who I trust the opinions of. Mm-hmm. I believe running back 1 was Priest Holmes. That was shocking to me. I think we're I'm not going to just make you be the person that says that the best running back in Chiefs history is Jamal Charles, because that's something that you have to actually believe before you're allowed to turn this show on every day. But I was very surprised by that. I simultaneously love Priest Holmes getting some credit and some name rec in that scope and with those cohorts around him. There were some really good running backs who didn't make the list. And I had a little bit of Jamal Charles jealousy from Charles's behalf. I think you tweeted about it. I don't think we've talked about it at all, though. I'm curious what that does for you.
I love Priest Holmes. I love the way he played. He really was such a terrific fit for that group, and he was a really good running back in his own right. People forget, before he had a couple of years with injuries in Baltimore, he had a season where he ran for 1,000 yards in Baltimore. He was a really talented back, a high quality running back, a really, really, really good one. He did benefit from one of the greatest situations I've ever seen. Man, I forgot he scored 27 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, I was there for the record-breaking game against the Bears. One of my earliest, clearest memories. It was so cool. I love these games.
It is just nuts, though. I mean, he had that season 1,400 yards rushing, and he had another about 700 receiving. That is bananas stuff. Priest Holmes, a great receiving back. awesome vision, good burst, great contact balance, did all the little things well that fans don't always notice. That said, Jamal Charles is one of the 3 to 5 greatest runners I've ever seen. There's no shame in being second place. Schwartz talked about this when talking about who the best right tackle in the NFL is. And he was like, with Lane Johnson and Penei Sewell, he was just like, look, there's no problem coming in second to Lane Johnson.
Right.
Like, that's just not, you were still talking really incredibly high levels of great. It's just, it's like, will I ever say that while Aaron Donald was still in the league, Chris Jones was the very best defensive tackle? That last year of Donald, I think Jones passed him a little. But there's no shame in coming behind an all-time great. So that is my opinion on that. I do think Jamal Charles moved the needle on his own more than almost any running back in history. And we've talked about that so many times. So I appreciate you letting me get that a little more airtime. Jamal Charles belongs in the Hall of Fame, and I will fight anyone who believes otherwise.
Except for Jason Dunn.
Except for Jason Dunn. And I meant verbally. Let's be clear. I'm 40, man. Let you know.
Just to continue remembering former Chiefs running backs, the career high rushing attempts for Larry Johnson never made it to 40. Had 39 in 2006 against the Seahawks, 36 in 05, 34 in 06. But basically, Larry Johnson's career high for attempts was 39. Let me see. And he also had 5 targets in that game. So 44 touches, or 2 receptions there. So certainly over 40 touches. And in his career, he had 13 games with 30 or more carries. In 2006, just number of carries a few weeks in a row here for Larry Johnson. 28, 39, 27, 18. Got some time off there. 31, 34, 28, 23, 19, 31, 33, end of season.
I just cannot even imagine, because he was a physical runner too.
Yes, and he played for almost 10 years. It was obviously brief at the end, but
yeah, I just can't even imagine how he felt after those games. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, it seemed not well, I would imagine. Anyway, that's a fun little return down the great running backs of Chiefs history. I feel like all of us have a couple of those guys. I was thinking about Thomas Jones for some reason, that year of him and Jamal Charles just being so exciting, at least in the lead up to it. I don't think that football team won a tremendous number of games. But man, those running backs.
Well, that was the 10-6 playoffs.
Oh,
year.
it was. You're right.
That was the Dwayne Bowe had like 16 touchdowns, or maybe it was 15.
You're right. No,
So
maybe that's what we were talking about that season. That was when Thomas Jones came back. I mean, I forgot Thunder and Lightning.
Oh my goodness. And I just remember that was the Jamal Charles 6.4 yards per carry season. Unbelievable. Yes, thank you, Pass Lou. All great running backs and even better people. That's one of my favorite things, because I feel bad because it feels like you're taking away from legitimately wonderful people, I'm sure. But it's like, I mean, we could talk about like Mother Teresa and stuff. Like, are we sure? Like, an even better person. Well, that just really undersells. That's like when I always tell people when they say like, some third string quarterback or second string quarterback, or even a guy who's a borderline starter or whatever, flames out of the league. Oh, he's a crap quarterback. Well, I mean, he's better at being quarterback than I will ever be at anything. And it's not even close.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is one of the 100 best quarterbacks in the history of the world.
Isn't that phenomenal?
It's amazing. It's amazing. And you think about him not being able to be the starter anywhere for more than like a year or two for the majority of that stretch. And he's one of those guys. It's amazing. Well, Seth, I've told you this many times. I think you're probably an okay lawyer, a decent film analyst, and just as good of a person. So let's go ahead and use the second of those 3 to talk about Rashee Rice a little bit. You have a new piece in the Chief of the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com. If you want to sign up and you're not, first of all, I can't imagine you listening to this show not being signed up to the newsletter, especially because it's literally $12 a year. It's not like a little sneaky price and then it's $120 the next year. It's that price forever. I know, because it keeps charging my card $12 annually. And I go, come on, Seth, take my money. He never does. bit.ly/Seth really hates money if you want to go straight to the sign up page there. But one thing you did in the setup of this, Seth, I'll take this part of the setup for you and you can do all the hard work after that.
Ooh, good. I'm going to clean my glasses while you do that.
Please do. Because you mentioned something, we used one of those tweets with the fantasy stats a couple of shows back, but you made the point, kind of setting the stage, that from a national level, some of the fantasy football analysts are the ones reminding everybody else, like, hey, Rashee Rice wasn't on a hot 3-game stretch. You expand over this 16, 17 game sample size of when his role increased in Kansas City, and you see the future, hopefully, for the Chiefs, right? That was helpful for me because I am so far removed from that skepticism at this point. I am fully at the point of going, yeah, Rashee Rice was like clearly on a number 1 receiver track last year, number 1 target in this offense. All the pieces have been coming together at the end of his rookie season, through the offseason, through those first few games. It was a good reminder that there is a little bit of skepticism, or at least uncertainty, from outside of Kansas City on Rashee Rice. Mm-hmm. But between you, me, and Nate, and what we believe to be Andy Reid and Brett Veach and Matt Nagy and Patrick Mahomes, I don't think there are a whole lot of those questions about what Rashee Rice's trajectory is. If he's on the field, healthy, not suspended, which also seems like he's on track for, feels like the sky's the limit there.
It does. And so this is actually, it's always fun when I find something that surprises me as I research stuff. And I found something when I was researching to write about Rice, because I love the work that the fantasy football guys do. They do a great job. But one thing that kind of happens at times is it gets really focused on the numbers. And sometimes when you're talking about someone's role being increased, usually people think of that in terms purely in quantity rather than quality. And I wanted to talk about quality there. So we could circle back to that, because I want to talk about there's quality of reps and quality of targets versus quantity of targets. Those are two different things, and both increased for Rice. But so I wanted to write about that, but I thought, I'd maybe check on some of the numbers, kind of take a look at them. And one thing that I found that I think even the people that are kind of looking at a larger sample size, and this is all in the unlocked portion, you can check it out, the Chief North newsletter, so I don't mind saying some of the numbers here. We've now reached our favorite bit. Seth reads the internet. Seth reads things he wrote on the internet.
It's even better, yeah.
You can really divide fairly sharply, with a couple of little exceptions, Rashee Rice's time in Kansas City into 2 groups. You got weeks 1 through 11 of the 2023 season where he was a rookie, right? And that's 10 games because they had the bye week. And then there's week 12 of 2023 through the end of week 4. Through the end of week 3. He got injured in week 4 in 2024. That's 13 games. So that's one thing that's important to keep in mind there, is you've got a larger sample size on the back end. Okay? Here's what's interesting to me. Weeks 1 through 11. This is part 1, right? This is, okay, he's a rookie. He's acclimating. And Andy Reid is slowly realizing that the guys that they had brought in, that MVS was taking a step back, that Sky Moore wasn't taking a step forward, all that stuff, the stuff that made them desperate enough to trade for McCole Hardman. Oh, I'm sorry, 3-time Super Bowl champion and game-winning Super Bowl catcher, whose quarterback called for him to be in the huddle for that play because he trusted him to go to the exact right place that he was supposed to go.
Who they let walk in free agency 4 months earlier.
Yes, they did. They did let them do that. But I think it's telling that when you watch the quarterback documentary, you see Mahomes yelling for 17 to come in to run that. Because there's something to be said for a guy, I will say this forever about McCole Hardman. He never really and I mean this in a complimentary way for a football player. He never really seemed to understand the gravity of the moments he was in. And because of that,
he caught the walk-off touchdown in the Super Bowl, and it took him a second.
It did.
It's hilarious.
He had that fumble against Buffalo that could have been crippling and was upset on the sideline, but later on managed a big run that was a huge deal. So, I mean, he was always the same dude in a relatively meaningless, or no, even a meaningless preseason game versus the Super Bowl. You were getting the exact same McCole Hardman, and you know what? That's a talent. Shout out to him for that.
Yeah, so really good player. Great career. They just should have just signed him when he was a free agent then, and rather he was a Packer.
So weeks 1 through 11 of 2023 for Rashee Rice. I'm going to round numbers a little bit so it doesn't get dull to listen to. 4.5 targets a game.
It seems like a weird time for us to start caring about that.
That's a solid point. 4.5 targets per game. What'd you save some of it up while you were gone? What did I do to you?
No, not even just you. I was just thinking, that's a good idea. We should start thinking about how to not make it too dull for the audience.
Yeah, we should try to or we should just spend an entire episode of an audio medium giggling about how blue I look.
How blue you look.
That really was, man. I rewatched that. It was just
really
your whole. What was it that you said to me that just sent me over the edge and I couldn't function?
Raisin.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You
Did you say raisin?
Yeah.
Golly. So, weeks 1 through 11, 2023. Rashee Rice, 4.5 targets a game, 3.5 catches per game, 42 yards per game. The 42 yards isn't bad, like for a rookie in Andy Reid's offense. But you're talking 3.5 catches, 4.5 targets. Week 12 of 2023, which includes a deep playoff run and then includes the first 3 weeks of the 2024 season. 9 targets a game, actually a little over 9, a little over 7 catches per game. So both of those have doubled now, right? You go from 4.5 targets a game to 9.1 targets per game. You go from 3.6, well, actually 4.6 to 9.1, so not quite double. But you get what I'm saying. See, I said I was going to make it easier, and then I made it harder. I don't know what my problem is.
That happens.
7.1 catches per game. Doubles that too. So he doubles the amount of targets, doubles the amount of catches. 82.1 yards per game, which over, like if you wanted to do this, over 17 games, you are talking 1,400 yards and 120 catches. Here's the interesting thing. His volume was doubled and his efficiency stayed the same. That is incredibly hard to do at the pro level. And here's the thing that I found that actually was even more interesting to me. During that stretch of 13 games, Rashee Rice, 118 targets. Travis Kelce, 88 targets.
And that is
Rashee Rice, 93 catches. Travis Kelce, 74 catches. Rashee Rice, 1,068 yards. Travis Kelce, 767 yards. The reality is, we don't have to wonder whether the Chiefs are willing to run their offense through Rashee Rice, with Travis Kelce being an incredible complementary player who is arguably the actual best weapon, all that stuff that we had those conversations when Tyreek Hill was in town. We don't have to ask that question because they've already done it. They ran the offense, by and large, through Rashee Rice down the stretch in 2023. Then come playoffs, if you go back and watch, the guy teams were trying to take away was Rashee Rice. And so then Kelce, of course, just went nuts. It was awesome. It is a really cool thing to see. And when you look at it that way, you understand that quantity-wise, we haven't even gotten to quality-wise yet. Quantity-wise, Rashee Rice really became the engine through which the passing game was running midway through 2023. So when we're talking about what 2025 looks like, we should assume, not hope, but assume that health permitting, it'll run through Rashee Rice.
I'm not going to bait and switch you here. I want to just do a good old-fashioned radio tease. I want you to tell me what the quality means and looks like and how you're judging that at all after we take ourselves a little break.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Seth, let's get to the quality of it all. What do you mean? How do you measure that? What do you mean quality targets? I mean, if you're getting targeted, that's good enough, right?
In a lot of ways, I mean, yeah, 8 targets is better than no targets. Something I've been really kicking around a lot, and I know we might talk about it maybe later this week, or maybe not later this week because it's my wife's birthday Thursday, but we'll talk about that.
I had no doubt that this show would cover your wife's birthday.
Oh man, that just gave me some ideas. But anyway, so the thing that's been fascinating to me recently is thinking about the questions that we're not asking ourselves about what's happening on the field. And I thought about that in reference to pass rush and pass protection. But it's something that, like, are you thinking about that in terms of a wide receiver's targets? So, you could ask yourself questions when you think about quality of targets. Ask yourself things like this. Are they more screens? How close are they to the line of scrimmage? How reliant are they for other people to get them open? How often, and this is a huge one, especially in Andy Reid's offense, how often are they the setup guy or away from the setup? Because every Andy Reid play call basically has a setup. Or how often are they the guy the play is designed to try to get open? Because that's your primary right there, okay? How often are they looking for him down the field? What's the variety of routes? All of those things change the quality of target. And so, like, a really easy example that I wrote about here, it was a red zone target against the Falcons where they put Rice specifically in motion to try to figure out whether it was man or zone. And they had Juju Smith-Schuster running essentially a pick in order for Rice to try to break out towards the boundary. That he took a play that some guys would have had a nice little gain because him and Juju timed it out really well. He ran a good route. But because of his explosion, it's kind of like that Raiders touchdown from 2023, where he's just a guy, when he catches the ball on the run, his first 10 yards, he just explodes. He doesn't have high-end top speed, but that explosion, how often have you seen Rashee Rice grab just 5 yards immediately, right? That's a high-quality target when you're trying to figure out someone's role within the offense. Not their quantity role, their quality role. Who are they running the offense through? If you're trying to set this guy up for targets, that's your guy. And for years, that's been Travis Kelce. Before that, it was Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce kind of in tandem. We saw a ton of that from Rashee Rice in 2024. We saw some down the stretch in 2023 too. But if you go back and watch, like, how much of the game plan, here's another good one to ask yourself. How much of the game plan is based around that receiver? So Baltimore week 1, 2024, so much of the game plan was based around we're going to spread out Baltimore. They're not going to expect us to run this way because we didn't in 2023. And we're going to isolate Rashee Rice in the middle of the field against Raquan Smith or whoever they have in there, depending on whether they're playing man or zone. And it worked like gangbusters. What's a variety of things he's being asked to do? Suddenly, he was running more downfield routes. Everyone remembers the touchdown against the Bengals in week 2. That was just a go ball route. You know how many go ball targets Rashee Rice had in 2023? I actually do.
Was it 0?
It was 1.
All right.
It was uno, and that was more of a double move type fade kind of attempt that honestly was a bad throw. But and Rice let all the contact mess with him and was it just wasn't great. It didn't look good. But 1. He had multiple, just getting 1 go ball in the course of a few games, and he had multiple other times he was running that route. That's a big deal. He was running deep crossers in 2024. Was not doing that. He was running various iterations of, to call them all whips would be really understating, but that's what I'm going to say. Different kind of pivot routes and that sort of stuff. He was asked to do much more in 2024 than he was in 2023, and it was working. Obviously, he got hurt the game after like the apex of it against Atlanta where he had like 14 targets. But they saw in that game kind of even more proof of concept. Rashee can be our guy, and he'll go off for 12 catches for 140 yards. Like, and a touchdown or 2 touchdowns, and it'll work. We can literally do this. And so that's the quality of targets. Both of those went way up for Rashee Rice, especially in 2024. So for me, we already have a proof of concept. And that's why, for me, of all the guys that are getting hyped this time of year, and that's how it is, right? Everyone's in the best shape of their lives. Everyone's all this stuff. Rashee Rice, health permitting, and right now, as far as we know, what's being reported is the NFL is going to wait for criminal charges to kind of resolve themselves and consider.
We literally can't find those yet.
Yeah,
so.
Considering they don't exist yet, we can only just extrapolate what we can extrapolate. The hype surrounding him is, if anything, a little understated because of how early he got hurt last year. And that is a really interesting thing in terms of who this offense is going to base around. The more I look at what they were trying to do in early 2024, which I am convinced, and I've already written about it, they're trying to run back the 2024 plan in 2025 with healthier players and better players. Yep. That's the plan.
Well, look, you can't get much healthier and much better than Nate Taylor, who rejoins the show now. Nate, we've done quite a bit of looking back at this truncated view of Rashee Rice. Let's look forward a little bit. Like, the one thing I'll restate from the very beginning is that Seth's story kind of helped remind me that nationally, I don't think Rashee Rice is being viewed as the center of this offense in 2025. I think amongst the three of us, he definitely is. But what's reasonable to expect right now? Not just on the injury, and in fact, explicitly not on the injury and the suspension front. Just if he's out there, where are you willing to put him in terms of not just his ceiling, but what you think is reasonable to expect from Rashee Rice in 2025?
There's a number of guys that you could put on a list, and I know we'll do that in a couple of weeks when training camp starts, but he's got to be near the top in terms of just what does he look like on the practice field. Is it very similar to what we saw last year when I'm sure you and Seth have mentioned this? Thank you, Zach. That we didn't necessarily know it at the time because there was Hollywood Brown and there still was Travis Kelce. And both of those guys will be obviously in training camp in St. Joseph later this month. But they were really trying to evaluate how much Rashee Rice had really understood the offense and how far he could take the next step in the offense before opening night against Baltimore. So if he has a similar training camp, where there's no restrictions, the knee looks good, he shows some explosiveness. Obviously, we're not really going to see a ton of contact until padded practices. And even then, it's not a preseason game. It's not a full game against an opponent. If he looks similar to what he looked like last year in training camp, that's a great sign because, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this too, the mental acuity he even gained in a month with him as a focal guy will do wonders for his potential this season if there's no suspension, if he stays healthy, if the guys around him stay healthy as well. It's not out of I don't think it's absurd to say 1,200 yards.
Is that where you're at too, Seth? That doesn't sound absurd to me.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people are correctly wondering about how many targets Hollywood Brown and in particular Xavier Worthy pull away from him. Right. Because Worthy, he couldn't do everything that Rice did. But as the season went along, they started giving him some of those more, the higher quantity of some of those, hey, with other guys, this would be a 3-yard gain, but with you, it's a 7-yard gain type thing. They started giving more of those, and he did well with them. Some of those crossers that they iced a couple games with, that's a Rashee Rice route. That's a natural thing. Here's the great thing, though. Those crossers, now it's not going to be Juju Smith-Schuster and Xavier Worthy. It's going to be Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy putting the defense in conflict. Well, we could play man, but do we have two guys that can run across the field with those guys? We could play zone. Rashee Rice's numbers against zone are nuts. And that's one thing that he really showed. But so the point I was going to make, that even though some targets will get pulled away, the reality is if you're now focusing your targets on 4 or 5 guys, let's say, Rice, Brown or Worthy in some order, because Worthy really took a lot of steps forward. Kelce and Noah Gray. Wouldn't it be great if no one else on the offense needed more than like 10 targets this year? Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if you could always, because if a target goes to any one of those guys, you're good, right? You're like, oh, awesome. Oh, they drew up a play for Noah Gray on 3rd down. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it every now and then. Whereas it's like, well, we got to target, kind of gimpy DeAndre Hopkins. We got to target Justin Watson. We got to target McCole Hardman and try to manufacture stuff because they're paying so much attention here. So that, I think it gets balanced out by the attention being drawn, which you get that accordion effect. I've talked about that before. Rashee Rice is killing you in the middle of the field. And so then you shrink in your defense and then you hit an intermediate shot to Hollywood Brown and then it accordions back out. And the goal is to make them be doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. That will help him. The other thing that will help him is if the offense is just overall better, that means drives are extended, which means maybe there's an extra 50 to 100 targets just magically conjured up out of thin air. Mm-hmm. And so that I think I can easily see him getting to that 1,200 mark, health permitting.
The last thing I'll say about this, Josh, is, and we won't know until, honestly, in Brazil against the Chargers, is if Rashee Rice can break tackles at nearly the same rate he did last year, then he is their number one receiver based on role, consistency, breaking tackles ability, can work intermediate, can work, deep to a certain degree. Because against I know you saw this, Seth, but one of the things that I know the coaching staff hated once they realized, oh, he's done for the season is, man, go watch that tape against the Falcons. They could not tackle him. Mm-hmm. Or the first offender was always like, hey, I'm just slowing you down upon where you're going. If Rashee can be someone who can break tackles at a decent rate to even what he showed a year ago, and the knee holds up based on that contact that is not quarterback related, then all of a sudden, again, he can be your number one receiver. And then you have multiple options to build off of that, including just a Hall of Fame tight end that we haven't quite mentioned a ton because he doesn't have to carry the entire, burden from a receiving production standpoint.
You guys bemoaned your inability to do segues without me. You both just gave us great ones here today, and I don't even think you did it on purpose because I want to talk about all those other pass catchers. I want to include Travis Kelce, even though we're kind of looking specifically at the wide receivers. I think I asked you this last week, but it is a genuinely, and man, what a difference a year makes, or what a difference 10 months makes, I guess, because these guys were in the mix at this time last year too. But what a wild thought exercise that I want you guys to go through. I want the listeners and voyeurs to go through. Assuming we're on the same page that Rashee Rice is the primary option in this offense next year, who are your number 2, 3, and 4 options? Because you can fill those with, and I don't know that I'm not dying on this order, but you could put Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, and Hollywood Brown in those slots in that order. And suddenly your number 4 pass catcher was last year's argument for number 2 before the injury. And then obviously it would have probably been Rice, and Kelce would have been 3.
Yeah.
And Travis Kelce, the greatest tight end of all time, and obviously the greatest pass catching tight end of all time, is your 3rd or 4th option after a year that he played, 84% of the snaps. Maybe Kelce's still your number 2, which means that Xavier Worthy, who felt like a revelation in the offense, especially by the end, now he's 3 or 4. There with last year's top weapon signing being Hollywood. This is all under the umbrella of assuming better injury luck and better health. We can't predict that truly. But how do you guys handicap that 1 through 4? Because that's a good looking group for me.
I have the answer, Josh.
Oh, fantastic. I should have just texted you earlier. You could have just told me.
It might not be the answer that people anticipate, but I'm going to explain why. And I wonder what both of you and the audience thinks. Number one, all things considered, no health issues, no suspension issues. The number one option should be Rashee Rice, based on experience, value, all the things we just talked about. Here's where it gets tricky. The number two option needs to be Xavier Worthy.
I kind of agree.
Then it's Travis Kelce, and I'm sorry, but you are not a Hall of Famer, and you're also not a first round or second round draft pick that the team has allocated a resource towards while on your rookie deal, while, we hope, perhaps assume, if you're a Chiefs fan, reaching their prime, but you're a very good player, you're a veteran, you're a professional, which you demonstrated in a different manner last year because of your injury and the way you had to return. Number 4 should be Hollywood Brown. And that's not to say that you put Hollywood Brown in an average NFL offense and he's going to be number 4. This is the way the order needs to go because there's no guarantee that Travis Kelce is coming back in 2026. Whereas, the two guys on 1 and 2 are on rookie contracts and they need to establish as much of a trust, connection, chemistry with Patrick Mahomes moving forward. And the earlier you do that in 2025, the better the offense can transition if Travis Kelce's not available in 2026.
I think what Nate's describing is definitely the best case scenario. Assuming it means not that Kelce and Brown underperform and Worthy just kind of gets bumped to the top as default.
Correct.
Because if Worthy, let's say Kelce is able to, in a rather Herculean feat, be the exact same dude he was last year, then I would say for Worthy to be able to jump him in the pecking order would show another step forward from him. Mm-hmm. And that would allow him to go from being a useful player to a legitimately good wide receiver. And there's a difference between those two things. If we talked about Rice's role in the team, like weeks 1 through 11 in 2020 versus after that, before he was a useful player. After he was utilized differently and, quantitatively and qualitatively. So I think that's the best case scenario because it would show Worthy learned from some of the things he could have done better last year and learned how to work with Mahomes a little bit better, learned that no matter how fast you are in this league, and he is fast. I mean, his speed clearly translates to the field. That's great. He looks like, and it's not a good comparison, so I always avoid Tyreek Hill. He looks Deshaun Jackson fast out. That's
what I'm always afraid to say. I want to say I was thinking Deshaun Jackson 30 seconds ago. I want to call him Deshaun Jackson so bad.
He's not quite as twitchy as Hill, and he's not built like Hill. Neither was Jackson, but he is Deshaun Jackson fast. But even Deshaun Jackson had to develop a little bit of ability with some of those down the field routes, some of the nuance, and Worthy needs to do the same. And he seemed like he was starting to get it last year. He continually had his role expanded. I don't think they make it all the way to the Super Bowl if he doesn't continue to expand his skill set throughout the year. Similar to how I don't think they win the Super Bowl without Rashee Rice expanding his skill set the year before. I think that's the best case scenario. What I actually think will happen, and I'm probably thinking with my heart rather than my brain, I just think that in an offense, let's say Worthy and Brown do pretty well, or even very well, and Rice is doing well. I just think Travis Kelce, with that burden lifted off his shoulders, without being the guy that's game planned for, you might see a whole swath of games that look like that 2023 playoff run when teams were lining up to beat Rashee Rice. And I think nothing would make Travis Kelce happier than having one more, 1,100, 1,200 yard season to say, hey, they thought I was washed. Turns out I wasn't. I'll see you guys. By the way, I was still the best. And I think he's going to work to do that. And I'm probably fan fictioning this. Travis Kelce, I cannot believe we've had the privilege of watching him. And this era of Chiefs football is incredible. I think that if Worthy and Brown are who the Chiefs hope they are, the opportunities for Kelce suddenly become just incredible. And so I think I think it's like a 1 and then a 2A, 2B, 2C situation. And I think 2A is Travis Kelce.
I think there's a go ahead, Nate.
Just think. 3rd and 7.
That's right.
I've been with that guy the longest.
That's right. That's the other element of it for me. I think that you could, if you're a hater and you're like someone like doesn't think that Travis Kelce plays football anymore. I'm not saying anyone on this show said that last year, but I think if you want it, because Nate, your view on the future, I think, is important. Because look, this is no slight to Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy will never be as meaningful to the Kansas City Chiefs franchise as Travis Kelce has already been.
Yeah,
and no one other than Patrick Mahomes is, or has been, or will be in my book, right? But Xavier Worthy is a part of the future and years into the future. The team control and the first round pick with the 5th-year option. I mean, some of this stuff, and the slant of it is important. This stuff is some of the thing that made me love football the way that I do, and the team building aspect of it the way that I do, because you're playing Madden 08 with the rosters you downloaded from a message board to try to get them as close to relevant as possible. Just me. And in that time, you're thinking, how do I continue to keep, and now obviously talking about the actual Chiefs, not just my 2008 PC Chiefs, but how do I continue to feature and celebrate the greatest tight end of all time while giving him a way to hand the baton to whoever is next? And I don't mean just Noah Gray and Jared Wiley. I mean, how does the offense evolve? How does Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, how do they facilitate that in a way that keeps the offense feeling like the Chiefs offense and feeling like the Reid Mahomes offense in a day when Kelce's not out there anymore?
Right.
It's all very complimentary that way, as opposed to trying to do like the 1-to-1 replacement of, we've got Brett Favre on the way out, we're drafting Aaron Rodgers. We got Aaron Rodgers on the way out, we're drafting Jordan Love. Travis Kelce's life will be made easier with a healthy Rashee Rice and having Xavier Worthy and all of those things. And obviously, I don't think Kelce is in any way whatsoever in his feelings about where he needs to be in the offense. I think the familiarity thing is interesting because I could see a world when 3rd and 7, I know it's Kelce. I got Kelce all the time. When that becomes something that defenses go back to and saying, all right, we know Mahomes still wants to go to Kelce here. We're going to make Xavier Worthy beat us on 3rd and 7.
Yep.
And that, by the way, when Nate's talking about, and Nate, correct me if I'm wrong here, when you're talking about what the next iteration of the Chiefs offense looks like, it's not, it comes back to this quantitative versus qualitative discussion again. It's not just about who replaces Kelce's 1,100 yards or who replaces his role in the sense of the routes. No one will do that.
Right.
Unless
he doesn't even run the routes on the page, Seth.
Yeah, no one's going to be, unless Tony Gonzalez is reincarnated somehow. and even then it would be slightly different.
Right.
No one's going to be that. If they want to be a team that can be wide receiver centric again with a good tight end like Noah Gray being the plan C guy and being a really solid one, they need to know, okay, Rashee, Xavier, can you be legitimate options on 3rd down? And this is where the kind of cool thing is, both of them have gotten a chance to rev up to that.
A little taste.
Just a little bit. Because Worthy, down the stretch in 2024, I wrote about Mahomes, I think it was against the Chargers in particular. Was it 3rd and 15?
Yep.
Worthy came back for the ball, found that gap in the zone. He didn't just plant, he came back. And
he levitated and threw him the ball. Yes.
Yep. He and Mahomes trusted him to do that. Rashee Rice, same thing. He started to become a weapon on 3rd down. Now you do that, and yes, for 2025, that's potentially incredible news because maybe you've got all these options on 3rd down. But it might even be even better news for 2026 because, yes, Patrick Mahomes is a superhuman. He is about to go through one of the most difficult transitions I can imagine for a quarterback. He did it so well with Tyreek because he went from having the most dangerous receiver and at the time probably the best receiver in the league to not. And he was incredible that year, threw for 5,200 yards and 40 touchdowns. Going without Travis Kelce, though, is going to be this incredible change. Although Kelce's now giving people hope a little bit. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not the last dance. I mean, I don't believe a word that he's saying. It's like Andy Reid with an injury report.
He loved blocking Josh Simmons on the scout team so much. He's like, I got to do this again.
I got to do this.
Nothing like
more.
You know someone's going to ask Travis Kelce. Someone's going to ask Travis Kelce the right question at like near the end of August on like with 3 days left to go in training camp. He's going to be like, you think I'm doing this bleep again? Like,
you know who's gonna ask that question?
Nathaniel Taylor.
Hey, just so you remember, it's August 3rd.
Yeah.
You hate it here, don't you? Don't you?
How bad do you ever think about the fact that right now you could be flying on a private jet sipping whatever version of Mai Tais really rich people sip? Like,
if you ask Travis Kelce from January, let's say from January to June, he's playing until he's 45.
Right.
You ask Travis Kelce in front of cinder blocks, and I think you just have to hope he doesn't retire in that moment.
Yeah, you know what?
I've thought about quitting my job in St. Joe in front of those cinder blocks.
It would be great. Nate could go down in history. Local beat reporter causes Travis Kelce to retire. You know what, Nate? That's a great point. Thanks, man. Nate, you would have to move.
Countries.
Hey, you remember? Hey. I know you got 17 games. Let me tell you something, buddy. On August 4th, Week 7 feels like an eternity from now. Okay, an eternity. And by the way, Week 7 doesn't even. We haven't even gotten to the important games.
The only games that really matter are games you're playing on our most precious national holidays.
Right.
You gotta ask him. Let's see. Maybe it won't be quite as hot at that point, but I bet it will. You got to ask him after Monday night at Jacksonville in early October, where the humidity...
playing in Jacksonville in the preseason again? All they do is go down there and have receivers break collarbones. Jacksonville.
No. This is in the regular season. You want to ask when it's like some day where it's like this beautiful weather most places in the country, but in Jacksonville it's 103 degrees with humidity that's somehow 120% and it's not raining, and just be like. And then plus, you're like in week 6, so the playoffs aren't even. I mean, this is
playoffs feel even longer than the Galaxy.
I forgot they had Monday Night Football in Jacksonville.
Right? Hey, you got to go across the solar system to get to important games in January, sir.
Yep.
The solar system.
Hopefully that's the week that Andy decides to randomly give him 96% of the snap count, and he's just like sitting there, and you're like,
why do you want that?
Hey, buddy.
What's Taylor? I saw a video. It looks like Taylor is in Buenos Aires right now, just hanging out, having a great time. Is this as fun as that?
Yeah, right.
Is it?
Is it? This is another thing I wanted to say too. When it comes to Travis, when you think about, and I hope they keep this. By the way, I hope they keep all the lateral highlights. I know somebody in the comments said it earlier, just like it was W Yonder 05. Like we're gonna miss the laterals, guys. It's so much fun for him to do that and be good at it. While they're men literally trying to rip his body from his limbs in the middle of the field. But also, man, there's just, you cannot replicate whenever he leaves the game. You can't ask Rashee Rice on 3rd and gotta have it in the second half against a really good defense in the Houston Texans. You can't ask Rashee Rice to just stop his route in the middle of the snap and be like, oh, I think my quarterback's in trouble. Let me just slide over here.
Right.
While my quarterback is falling to his knees.
That is not how the game is supposed to be played.
And I'll just be wide open. And I'll just look like I voodooed, like I'm in the Matrix. And everybody from Houston who's very good at football is going to be like, how the hell did he get open again? Well, you see, after my first 2 steps on my route, I just said, bleep all that. I think my like a sixth sense. I think my quarterback's in danger, and I should just slide over here. What? Who does that?
As he's mid route, the hairs on his arms raise up like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I just got to run to that open space, and no
What?
one will ever play the game quite like that again. And that's pretty
It's
awesome.
absurd.
I kind of like the idea there that I think you're opening the door for, Seth. You know how they've told that story about how Mahomes and Kelce both got in trouble being late to the same day of practice after being out too long and their alarm's not going off or whatever. And Paget says, "Were you with Travis?" I think what may have happened there, and Nate, this sounds like a job for a reporter whose hands were made to type and whose voice was made to ask questions. I think there's at least a chance that whatever party they were at, Mahomes and Kelce got bit by the same radioactive bug. I don't know if it has to be a spider or if it could be something else, but like something, maybe some sort of neurological bacteria that got in there. So I don't, but their brains have to be linked, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that they ever, like Mahomes is laying in bed at home and he like suddenly sees the flashing lights of a Taylor Swift concert somewhere overseas? He's like, that's weird. That's
the
so
Spider-Verse? Where
Yeah.
am I?
Then Travis Kelce is in Paris watching Taylor Swift, and then suddenly the lights flash out of his eyes, and he's chasing around 3 small children. Like, what's going on? There has to be some sort of intercontinental ESP link. It can't just be on the football field.
That is a great. You know what? No one's ever followed up, I think, on that. You got to be like, where were you guys?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Right.
My favorite part of that story, by the way, is
Like
the
a blood
fact
transfusion? What happened?
my favorite part of that story is both of them were separated and asked if they were with each other, and they were both like, no. Like, that's like, because somehow Mahomes, who we've joked about before, somehow knows the correct thing to do in every social setting. Somehow he knew. He's like, there's a reason that. Why are they asking me about Travis? Specifically. Oh, this has happened to him before. My guy's career might be on the line. Well, I mean, Travis was pretty ingrained.
He was
But it's
pretty
still
good
like,
by then, but it's like,
no,
no.
Andy might hurt him. No, I don't even know why you would ask me that. And then
This
Kelce is like,
Travis
stuff.
Kelce? Travis
Yeah,
Kelce?
Isn't it Kels?
I think it's pronounced Kelce.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the guy whose brother plays for the Eagles? I know, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
And then with Kelce knowing as much trouble as he was already in, that if he said, oh, yeah, I was out with our rookie phenom,
Quarterback.
the entire future of the franchise is depending on, while Alex was probably in bed at 8:30, who is undoubtedly here. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Ugh.
Oh,
I would never. Andy, look at me. I would never do that.
I was out with Tyler Bray last night, I think. but-
so this is what I first realized that he had this spidey sense, sixth sense, whatever you want to call it. Of course, I have to bring up a terrible moment, but you realize, guys, in a game that, again, they had to have for playoff implications, down with the ball. And this is already after he's realized that, like, hey, I can help my quarterback by, calling my own plays against the greatest postseason game we may have ever seen in the 13 seconds in Buffalo. Okay, what's the situation? Yeah. All right, got it. Okay, no one's open. I can feel it. Okay, I used to play quarterback, so I kind of know what he's going through. All right, I sense it. My quarterback's in danger. I got to get to an open spot. Hey, guess what? I've done it again. And guess what? The ball's at a rival. And I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to get a lot of yards. And then another spidey sense happened. I don't know if it's like the one where he starts to think about lateraling it. Whatever you want to call that, ladies and gentlemen, let me
That
know.
one was an intrusive thought, but
that one was like, no.
But then out of the corner of his eye, he's like, but if he's here and he's here, if these guys are pursuing me at 2 different angles, Kadarius Toney's right there. And I have to do it. I must throw Kadarius Toney the football. Like, watch that play from start to finish. And don't watch Kadarius Toney, guys, who runs his route, gives up on the play, pouts about it, and then is like, is he throwing me the football? And then literally goes, this is the greatest moment of my life. So then realizing, oh God, it's the worst moment of my career. In
I
a
ruined
matter
everything. Oh,
of 30 seconds. Incredible. But watch Travis Kelce on that play, who realizes my route's not going to work. I got to change it. And you can see it on all 22. Holy crap, my quarterback's in danger. I'm going to catch the ball. And instead of just getting the first down and keeping things moving, nah, man.
The ball halfway across the field.
Nah, he's right over there.
Look, when you have an opportunity to throw the ball to Kadarius Tony, you got to take it.
Which, yes.
Hey, Hayden, what's up? Cookies and cream ice cream?
Nice.
Yeah. So, it's my son. I gotta get on camera.
Gotta get him. You gotta get him in there.
I gotta get. I came home. I got a popsicle. I did my job today.
Boom, Father of the Year. In contention at least. I don't know when they give those out. Probably not in July. That seems like a weird time. You got a whole lot of year
like
left.
A weird time. Yeah.
I don't want to take the victory lap too soon. Christmas seems kind of late.
It was. It's one of the greatest Travis Kelce highlights that we'll never see again.
How'd you guys end the show when I wasn't here?
Delete all the tapes. I have no idea how we ended the show when you weren't here. Mostly, we tried to get it. Oh, that's right. Well, we already blown it, Seth.
Do it, Nick. Do it.
We've already blown an hour.
I thought about trying to get under an hour too, but then we ended up talking about Travis Kelce and Kadarius Tony, and that's
sometimes you just got to be guys naming dudes.
We did that earlier also.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. We talked about Larry Johnson, Tony Richardson,
what?
Holmes, Jamal Charles. Yeah, it was great. It was great stuff. A lot of Jason Dunn in today's episode also.
Nate, do you think the three of us, and actually let me ask this a more realistic way.
Four of us, including Hayden.
How long do you think it would take the four of us, including Hayden, how long do you think it would take Jason Dunn to best us in hand-to-hand combat? I'm putting the under at 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah, over under 3 minutes. You taking me under
50 seconds?
Yeah, do you think one of the three of us is about to get in significantly better shape?
Yeah, and if you're giving us Hayden, well, at least he can run around. But no, we're
well, now all we're doing, if we include Hayden or one of my kids, just to make it a little less whatever, all we're doing is giving Jason a club. Let's face it.
The beauty about naming guys is you're like, man, I think Eddie Kinnison could have cooked in this league, guys. I think he could have cooked.
Yeah, no doubt.
He wasn't getting mauled. He wasn't getting assaulted 5 yards between him and the route.
You never knew in 2003 when you caught the ball down the field if Troy Polamalu was driving towards you on a four-wheeler.
Yeah.
It was just you never knew. And that to me, people talk about how it's different for quarterbacks. It's different for wide receivers.
Yes.
Andre Johnson and Calvin Johnson and Randy Moss, they played in a different league.
Different league.
It's just incredible. Some of the hits you watch and you're like, you can tell that they've done some good work with raising awareness on certain things. Because I watch it and I'm like, whoa. And then half the time, I watched Marvin Harrison get almost decapitated. And then the dude just stood up and he wasn't even mad about the hit. He just walked away. And I was like, I don't know. If I were playing someone and they did that, I'd be like, holy crap. I don't know what I got to do to this guy. Marvin's not a big dude, but scary fella.
Hey, just remember, Casey Wegman used to be like, I just live for screens. I live for screens and
because he weighed less than Charles Amena, who does now. Casey Wegman was out here playing center at 280 pounds.
I want to come out. I just waiting for screens, baby. Waiting for screens or cutback blocks. Woo! There's nothing. Hey, watch 90s clips and watch an interception and just see a man who was on defense turn his head.
Yeah.
Who can I murder tonight?
I bet I got to go block the quarterback. I don't know where the ball is, but I'm going to go block the quarterback. And you see the quarterbacks are just trying to go fetal. They're not chasing the ball, man. I'm just trying to live.
In a weird way, and I hate to bring this all the way back, in a weird way, Patrick's trying to tackle Christian Fulton because he actually can tackle him now.
Yeah.
We're in the earlier days. Patrick, get away from everybody.
Yeah. You just start backpedaling. We don't care if it's a pick six. Just live to fight. He who fights and runs away lives to run another day.
I've seen Bobby Brewster get his bell sent to another decade, and he wasn't even good.
Oh, man. Ronson trade, Bob Sanders was a midget decapitating people. Yeah, you might have Bob Sanders, who was not 5'10". That guy was 5'8" on his best day, but like probably weighed 400 pounds the way he hit people. Dude's blood was mercury.
Yes.
And he could run like a deer. You might have him try to kill you. Man, this is such a great sport.
It's a different sport. Hey, never forget. I know. He also mentioned Sean Taylor. Never forget in the Pro Bowl, Sean Taylor was like, "They running a fake on us, not on me," and killed the punter in broad daylight.
Hey, Warriors. Thanks for hanging out with us for another episode of Only Weird Games. You remember how last week these two absolute buffoons tried to blame me for the fact that the show always goes over an hour? You remember that? I remember that. I was listening.
I was there.
Yeah, obviously.